On the day of my sister's funeral, I stealthily opened the coffin. The general's household claimed she succumbed to illness from exhaustion, yet I beheld her body, marred with wounds and a ghastly demise. A few months later, adorned in a crimson gown, I entered the general's manor, reduced to a mere jest among the affluent elite of the capital. They proclaim me a precious jewel of the aristocracy, a beauty unparalleled, worthy of a prince, yet I willingly debase myself, eagerly becoming the secondary wife of a powerless general. No one knows I have returned to reclaim my former profession, intending to bury the entire general's household along with it. 1. My sister was the foremost talent of the capital, who, during the Lantern Festival, encountered the General of Annan, and the two formed a deep connection, solidifying their bond. However, after entering the general's household, apart from her return visit, she seldom appeared in public, disinterested in attending banquets. She even declined all invitations from me, her most cherished sister. Several times, standing before the tightly shut gates of the general's residence, I felt an overwhelming urge to burst inside. Yet I had promised my sister that I would be obedient. Upon hearing of my sister's joyous news, I submitted another invitation, and she finally agreed to meet me. After a long separation, she had withered away, losing all her former radiance. We had barely exchanged a few words when she was overcome with nausea from her pregnancy and wished to rest for a while. Her personal maid, In Chun, escorted me out, evasive in her responses to my inquiries, ultimately dismissing me with the excuse of her mistress's recent illness. Catching sight of a stream of nourishing supplements being brought to her chamber, I felt a slight sense of relief. After lunch, I accompanied my sister to the rear garden to admire the blossoms, only to discover that even the concubines maid dared to speak disrespectfully to her. The following day, I witnessed the lifeless body of that maid being removed from the rear courtyard. My spirit soared, and I yearned to see my sister once more, yet she was once again unwilling to meet me. I knew she was angry again, but I harbor no regrets. I cannot bear to see my sister suffer. Those who harm her deserve to perish. A month later, the general personally visited to inform of my sister's pregnancy, yet she persisted in managing household affairs, ultimately succumbing to exhaustion. He knelt in contrition, bowing his head in apology, trembling with fear, which compelled my parents to refrain from voicing their grievances. At the funeral, my father and mother were inconsolable, nearly fainting from grief. Yet I did not attend the funeral. Instead, I disguised myself and mingled with the mourners. Under the cover of night, I stealthily opened the coffin before it was sealed, and upon confirming it was indeed my sister, I could no longer contain my sorrow and unveiled her garments. A wave of cotton greeted me, filling a body so emaciated it barely resembled a human form. As I removed the cotton, I discovered numerous bruises upon her, particularly on her wrists, fresh wounds layered upon old scars, a harrowing sight. It was no wonder she had been hastily interred, forbidden from being displayed. Unable to bear the sight any longer, I placed the talisman I always kept close at hand upon her abdomen. This was a charm my sister had procured from the temple shortly after I fell gravely ill upon entering the minister's residence. For all these years, I have enjoyed peace and fortune, yet she and her child were to be buried deep beneath the earth. My father, positioned high in rank and feared by the emperor, had ceased to bear heirs after my sister's birth. Despite the multitude of concubines in the household, my sister remained the singular gem of the minister's estate. My parents cherished her dearly, yet she never indulged in privilege. She treated everyone, from noble lords to beggars, with equal regard. Later, she wed into the general's household, and though there was some discontent at home, we acquiesced to her wishes. After all, we believed the general's estate would be free from the troubles of in-laws and rivalries. With my sister's noble status, she would surely not face any indignity. But how could they allow such a tragic fate to befall her? After the funeral, I arranged for the abduction of a young servant from the general's household, confining him to a secret chamber in my private residence. From him, I learned that my brother-in-law, Xia Yizhang, cherished a favored concubine, Aunt Yun. I then disguised myself as this concubine and encountered him several times, during which he took the initiative to pursue me. 3 months later, disregarding my family's opposition, I donned a red wedding gown and entered the general's household as his new wife. As I was welcomed into the home, still within the mourning period, the wedding was kept simple. On my wedding night, after the ceremonial cup was shared, just as we were about to consummate our union, a maid outside cried out in distress. "General, something terrible has happened. Aunt Yun has fallen ill and is vomiting blood." Upon hearing this, Xia Yizhang hastily abandoned me and rushed away. I turned the cup he had just drunk from in my hand, finding it empty. At least I had not wasted the precious medicine I had purchased at great expense. I then extended my arm, shattering the porcelain cup upon the floor before crushing it beneath a flower pot, erasing all evidence. My sister had such a fiery temperament. Following the sound, I spotted a woman. I recognized her as Aunt Chun, one of the general's concubines. I recalled an incident when I accompanied my sister to admire flowers in the back garden. Her maid had brazenly insulted my sister in public, suggesting that she was no virtuous character herself. Noticing my silence, she poured herself a cup of tea, swirling it lightly, and with a tone of feigned confusion remarked, "What a shame, a noble daughter of the minister's estate, choosing to marry into the general's household. I simply cannot comprehend what you hope to gain." After her arrival, a shadow appeared outside the window. Understanding her intent, I played along, responding, "What does a woman seek in marriage? Surely it is to foster a deep bond with her husband, to harmonize in life." Upon my first meeting with the general, I was captivated by his masculine charm. It is almost amusing to admit, but on my sister's wedding day, I was so heartbroken that I left home, and now, with heaven's favor, I have finally achieved my desire. Aunt Chun seemed to find amusement in my words, covering her face as she laughed. "Sister, you are unaware, are you? The general and Aunt Yun have known each other since childhood, their affections intertwined. In this household, you may be the ostensible matron, yet the true mistress is Aunt Yun." I feigned urgency in my rebuttal. Aunt Yun is ill, and the general's kindness drives him to her side. If he truly held affection for her, why would he have welcomed me into his home? It is you who dislikes Aunt Yun and seeks to sow discord. Her smile faltered for a moment before she regained her composure. Rising, she said, "If that is the case, then I wish you the best in your endeavors." With that, the shadow outside vanished. She approached me, whispering in a tone only we could hear, "If you wish to uncover the truth behind your sister's death, come to Bidong Courtyard alone." Watching her prepare to leave, I swiftly grasped her arm. She assumed my interest in her words had piqued, turning back with delight. Smack. Under her astonished gaze, I slowly spoke. "My sister was far too compassionate. Those restless concubines ought to have been sold off." She shot me a venomous glare before covering her face and departing. A fool, testing my resolve. I seized a red candle and tossed it beside the curtain. And soon the room was awash in flames. In my panic, I rushed outside, shouting that there was a fire, causing chaos among the servants in the courtyard. Seizing the opportunity, I made my way out, sensing someone following me stealthily. I cast a glance at Chuyue, my personal maid given by my mother, who was also skilled in martial arts. Understanding my signal, Chuyue discreetly went to deal with my pursuer. I hastened towards Mufang Pavilion, my sister's quarters, uncertain of Aunt Chun's whereabouts, as we had previously arranged a secret signal. The cause of my sister's death, she would surely find a way to leave me a message. Mufang Pavilion was unguarded, allowing me easy access. After scanning the area, I spotted a mark in a concealed corner, a sign we had agreed upon with Aunt Chun. Following the signal, I discovered a dry well. With visibility to the bottom, I wasted no time in leaning down. The well was overgrown with weeds, and as I carelessly kicked aside the underbrush, I found a piece of letter paper. This was Aunt Chun's handwriting. My sister had taught both Aunt Chun and me to read and write in our youth, making me quite familiar with her script. Second miss. Aunt Chun is responsible for your sister suffering humiliation to the point of death. She must not be spared. The letter bore a hidden message, confirming its authenticity. Yet, I felt it was not that simple. Why would Aunt Chun wish to harm my sister? According to her, Aunt Yun and the general were true lovers, and any jealousy should be directed at Aunt Yun. Moreover, I couldn't shake the feeling that the general's marriage to me concealed ulterior motives. Unable to resolve my thoughts, I concluded that, as Aunt Chun indicated, Aunt Chun must be one of the perpetrators behind my sister's demise. I tucked the letter away and stealthily returned to the flaming courtyard. By the time Xia Yizhang arrived, The fire had been extinguished, but the room was in disarray, uninhabitable. He questioned, bewildered. What happened here? With tears welling in my eyes, I looked at him, as if I had 1,000 words to say, yet remained mute. Aunt Chun visited late at night, and after her departure, the fire broke out. My maid Chuyue exclaimed indignantly. Once Chuyue finished speaking, I interjected, my husband, do not misunderstand. It is not Aunt Chun's doing. It was I, clumsy as I am, who accidentally knocked over a candle. It is entirely my fault, and I beg you, for the sake of our recent marriage, not to hold it against me. After hearing my explanation, he gently reassured me. It's of no consequence, merely a trifling matter. The night is deep. You should rest. I tentatively asked, this house is no longer suitable for living. Would it be possible to stay in Mufang Pavilion temporarily? Mufang Pavilion is inauspicious. Come sleep in my quarters instead, he replied, taking my hand. Back in his chamber, we extinguished the lights and retired for the night. It appeared that on our wedding night, he had no intention of consummating our marriage. Could it be due to Aunt Yun? Contemplating this, I leaned in closer and kissed him, our lips entwining. He hesitated, attempting to push me away, but when his hand brushed against my skin, his breath quickened, evidently succumbing to the effects of the potion. I gently grasped his hand, exploring its contours. I had once mastered the art of seduction and honed my skills in matters of intimacy, yet before I could employ them, my sister had rescued me. With 2 wives and 2 concubines, coupled with the effects of the drug, even a paragon of virtue would find it difficult to resist. Unsurprisingly, he soon lost control of his desires, drawing me close as the night wore on, and we did not cease our fervent coupling until dawn. After that night, Xie Yizhong became enamored, seeking me each evening, and afterward, he thoughtfully provided me with nourishing medicine, which I readily consumed. I had given him a secret concoction from the western frontier, which, once ingested, would lead him to frequently contemplate our intimate encounters. Colorless and tasteless, barely perceptible. It can only be alleviated after 27 encounters of intimacy, and once released, the body is left significantly diminished. For those skilled in martial arts, their prowess would be greatly reduced. I sought out Aunt Chun, only to learn she had erred and was confined, forbidden from visitors. A few days later, while admiring the blossoms in the back courtyard, I encountered Aunt Yun. It was my first close encounter with her. A light touch of powder adorned her face. Her brows and eyes painted like a masterpiece, her skin as delicate as cream, bearing a resemblance to me. Contrary to my expectations, she exuded a vibrant vitality, unlike one who had been ill for long. Upon seeing me, a flicker of astonishment crossed her features, and she perfunctorily curtsied, addressing me as sister. I offered a faint smile, dismissing the need for excessive courtesy, feeling somewhat weary. I suggested she should enjoy the flowers at her leisure. Is sister angry with me? I raised an eyebrow and inquired, what gives you that notion? Her slender fingers brushed against her temples, pride illuminating her face. The general spends each night at my side. Neglecting you, is that why you choose not to appreciate the flowers with me? I inwardly chuckled, pondering who it was that had been sneaking into my room in the dead of night. I tugged at my collar, revealing a crimson mark. With a mocking smile, I retorted, how could that be? I owe my gratitude to you, sister. With so many encounters in one night, I can hardly bear it. Your willingness to share is truly commendable. Perhaps provoked by my words, her expression shifted to one of fierce resolve. Bring her, bind her. It seemed she could no longer contain herself. In recent days, I had come to realize that the true mistress of this household was not I, but rather her. Furthermore, since I had resolutely chosen to marry my brother-in-law, my father was no longer my protector, and she harbored no reservations. Thus, I made no effort to resist, as the maidservants bound me. They cast me into a desolate chamber of the Mufang Pavilion, an empty space. A strange expression flickered across Aunt Yun's face as she towered over me. Did you truly believe the one sharing your bed was the general? He is but a servant of similar stature. He is indeed fortunate to have 2 daughters of the noble family. She hesitated, her meaning clear. You, like your sister, are merely a medicinal herb to me. Had I known how much disdain the noble family held for you, rejecting your return, I would have made you my remedy the day you entered the residence. The general has exercised caution, allowing you to linger for so long. Yet you dared to provoke me. You might as well serve as my medicine now. I could hardly believe her insinuation of wanting me to be with a servant. In disbelief, I struggled wildly. Internally mocking, it dawned on me that the general had not informed her that the servant had perished in flames on his wedding night. Or perhaps not. That was merely a false corpse. The servant had accompanied the general for many years and might possess knowledge of certain secrets. I could not so easily eliminate him. Currently, he resided in the concealed chamber of my private abode, where Chiyoyue would attend to him. My antics seemed to amuse her. I noticed her face relax into a satisfied expression as she beckoned to a maid behind her. Soon after, someone approached with a small knife, slicing into my arm, crimson blood oozing into a bowl. The bowl filled with my blood, and moments later, they left after a cursory bandaging. Sister, is this how you acquired your wounds? For several consecutive days, they came to draw my blood, their actions mechanical, only taking blood and bandaging, ignoring my attempts to speak. On one particular day, a different maid entered, her face veiled. Oh, it was Aunt Chun. She produced a pill and thrust it into my mouth. I regarded her coolly. Poison would not claim my life. I know your constitution, but who says I intend to poison you? I am here to assist you. My curiosity piqued, I asked. Oh, this is a false pregnancy pill. Once ingested, your body will mimic that of a pregnant woman, rendering your blood useless to Aunt Yun. Intrigued, I inquired, how long will it last? She responded, a hint of disappointment in her tone, 2 months. A servant's voice urged her to leave, and I taunted, foolish. What did you say? I lured. Why not just kill me? That would solve everything, and my sister's demise would be concealed as well. What do you have to fear? Her eyes lit up at my suggestion, and after a moment of contemplation, she spoke with admiration. Indeed, the noble family has only 2 daughters. You are now the sole one capable of saving her. If you die, Aunt Yun shall not survive either, and then the general will belong solely to me. Just as she produced a dagger, she hesitated, retracting it into her sleeve, wearing a smile that hinted at deeper intentions. No, I have a better opportunity. I mocked her timidity, but she walked away, ignoring me. That night, I did not untie my own restraints. Chiyoyue lit an aphrodisiac in his chamber. Xie Yizhong would surely come. As I drifted into slumber, someone hurriedly untied my bonds. His skin was unnaturally warm. I feigned panic, attempting to scream, but he covered my mouth, whispering, "It's me." Our silent exchange conveyed a multitude of emotions. The desire and yearning hidden in his gaze burned like flames. Exhausted, I finally succumbed to sleep, hearing him murmur, "What a pity. Had I met you in my youth, how splendid it would have been. We were meant to be a match made in heaven, united for eternity." Encountering men was an endless affair. In my heart, I silently replied, "What a pity. If only your martial prowess were weaker than mine, the one who should be in the coffin is you." The scars on my hands multiplied, yet they paled in comparison to the shocking marks on my sister. On this day, Xie Yizhong and Aunt Yun finally arrived. The light flooding in as the door opened was blinding. Aunt Yun spoke with barely concealed anger. "Doctor, see to her properly." I understood then. The false pregnancy pill must have taken effect. The doctor informed them truthfully that I was already a month pregnant. Aunt Yun dismissed the physician, casting a furious glare at me. "You have conceived so quickly? No wonder the medicine failed. Had I known your father had disowned you, I would not have bothered to pretend with you." She lifted my chin, teasing, "It seems your constitution is stronger than your sister's. After all, she had to bed the servant countless times to conceive." I remained silent, gazing at Xie Yizhong, who appeared equally stunned. It was only that one occasion when she did not take the contraceptive. Aunt Yun carelessly pointed to a maid, commanding, "You, go prepare an abortion medicine." Aunt Yun, being poisoned, could not bear a child herself, and her jealousy was evident. Aunt Chun may have had very few encounters in her chamber. Yet at Xie Yizhong's age, which man did not have children? Would he be willing to sacrifice the child he had longed for? If he were willing, my sister would not have conceived in the first place. Upon hearing this, I choked back tears, adopting a practiced expression as I gazed at Xie Yizhong, my eyes misty. "General, do you not want our child?" Aunt Yun struck me hard across the face, seemingly intent on marring my features. A daughter of the noble family, acting like a seductress, enticing whom? You bear a servant's child. Giving birth would ruin the reputation of our general's household. Enough, Xie Yizhang interrupted sternly. He was all too aware of whose child it was, considering we had often left the candles burning. Aunt Yun continued her discontented persuasion. General, she is not her sister. Her sister has been weak since childhood and could not endure an abortion. I can overlook that, but she is strong enough to withstand the effects of the abortion medicine. Hearing my sister's name, tears streamed down my face. I likely appeared terrified. Though I did not raise my head, I clearly heard Xie Yizhang's voice, low and commanding. Let it be born. Aunt Yun seemed to realize something. Her previously furious expression crumbled into one of despair, her voice laced with grievance. General, it's just 10 months of pregnancy, if I cannot resolve it in 10 months. Xie Yizhang gently embraced her shoulders, comforting her softly. Do not worry. I will prioritize your life above all else. From that day forth, I was no longer bound or bled. I was moved to the main hall of the Mufang Pavilion, where Qiuyue could serve me. It felt as though my sister's presence lingered in the air, and I slept with a sense of peace. At night, I seemed to return to my childhood, back to the Jiwa Tower, where resistance led to whippings and hunger. Eventually, I chose compliance and obedience. The courtesan proclaimed that I was born with an innate charm, possessing an unparalleled physique, and thus forced me to consume poison for control, sending me to a training camp of deadly assassins tasked with eliminating bureaucrats from rival states. My days became increasingly arduous. Master Hua subjected me to frequent whippings and enforced a regimen of various poisons, alongside rigorous swordsmanship and martial arts training, an endeavor I loathed, for my talent was woefully inadequate. No matter how diligently I practiced, my master would dismiss my efforts with a mere utterance of not enough, followed by a bucket of ice dousing me and a whip striking my back. One fateful day, I overheard my master discussing my impending transfer to an even harsher environment, instilling within me a paralyzing fear. In a desperate bid for freedom, I resorted to poisoning and killing numerous individuals to escape. Yet, the relentless pursuit was overwhelming. The pain from the poison was excruciating, and I collapsed midway, ultimately meeting my demise at the hands of my pursuers. Awakening in a cold sweat, I realized with horror that it was not as it seemed. My sister had saved me. But where was she now? The haunting memory of her murder by those very people flooded my mind. The following day, Xie Yizhang and Aunt Yun, laden with treasures, set out to seek Master Fang Yuan, who had previously alleviated Aunt Yun's poison affliction after 7 torturous months. I mused that this must be the opportune moment Aunt Chun had been anticipating. I inquired whether the general could bring me along. He glanced at me, then at Aunt Chun, comprehending my reluctance to be left alone with her. You are with child and should avoid travel. Aunt Chun, accompany us instead. Aunt Chun, as if anticipating this, replied, General, my maternal uncle wishes to visit. It would be impolite to send him away empty-handed. You know, since my brother's death, he is my only kin. I noticed the change in the general's expression at the mention of her brother. Then let us remain here, I thought, my bloodlust stirring within. Splendid. We could now play together. After the general's departure, I awaited Aunt Chun's attempt on my life, yet she remained silent. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to find solace in sleep. I summoned Qiuyue to inquire about any developments, learning that Aunt Chun's uncle had stealthily arrived late at night and entered her chamber. Donning night attire, I had Qiuyue wear my clothes. With only a wall between us, I overheard her uncle's lewd remarks. Is this young lady from the minister's household as lovely as the last? I was apprehensive during my previous visit, but after these months, it seems they are quite easy to manipulate. His tone dripped with envy. Of course. She is beautiful. There is an immense chasm between a lady raised in luxury and someone like me. How else could she become the general's wife? Aunt Chun, shifting the focus of the conversation, prompted her uncle's impatience. I know all this. Can we hasten? I can hardly wait. Just a moment longer. I must prepare carefully to ensure she becomes pregnant. Without the antidote, that wretched Aunt Yun will surely perish in 12 months. But remember, do not kill her as you did last time, or the general will not spare either of us. I chuckled. Aunt Chun's malevolence was matched only by her cowardice. She resented my position as the general's wife, wishing for her uncle to ruin me, while simultaneously plotting my pregnancy to ensure Aunt Yun's demise. Yet, she insisted on sparing my life, fearing the general's wrath. This indecisiveness warranted a lesson from me. Aunt Chun, in her scheming with her uncle, had dismissed most of the servants and attendants. Little did she know the regret that awaited her. Once she succumbed to sleep, I stealthily approached her bedside, grasping her throat. She awoke in terror, my grip tightening as her eyes widened, hands clawing at me, seemingly desperate to speak. I took a moment to release her, intrigued. Perhaps my hold had lasted too long. She coughed delicately, her voice hoarse. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I can give you anything you desire. Dear sister, all I want is you. Is that acceptable?" She panicked. No, no. Don't you wish to know how your sister died? I gestured for her to continue. Yet, she believed she had seized my weakness, her demeanor softening. In a swift motion, I drew my dagger and plunged it into her heart. Blood gushed forth, staining her garments in a crimson hue, truly a beautiful sight. As realization dawned upon her, her face twisted in disbelief and resentment. I delivered another blow to ensure her demise. Leaning close to her ear, I whispered, "You are fortunate. The old me would have made you suffer, dying beneath the scorn of many. But my sister would not approve of such vengeance. When you reach the underworld, remember to thank her." As night deepened, a drunken man intruded upon the Mu Fong pavilion, only to be intercepted by the attendants. I ventured out, startled to find the ensuing chaos had caused me to miscarry, blood pooling around me, with a maid identifying the intruder as Aunt Chun's uncle. I was left in shock, the Mu Fong pavilion in disarray. The next morning, I dispatched servants to locate the man, only to discover him entirely naked in Aunt Chun's chamber, a dagger in hand, and Aunt Chun drenched in blood, a ghastly sight. I hastily sent for officials, and days later, they returned with news that Aunt Chun's uncle had confessed under duress, consumed by a large quantity of aphrodisiac. He had inadvertently killed Aunt Chun, and correspondence found in his home revealed their unspeakable exchanges. Upon reading the letters, I was overcome with shock and fainted once more. Back in my chamber, I penned a note, instructing that Aunt Chun's correspondence be delivered to Xia Yizhang. "Hurry back. We are merely waiting for you two." To my surprise, Xia Yizhang and Aunt Yun rushed back, and as I watched their carriage approach, my intent to kill intensified. Xia Yizhang dismounted and hurried toward me. "You err. I have read your letter. Is the uncle still alive?" "What do you mean, husband?" I inquired, puzzled. "Since the lady is unharmed and that wretched Aunt Chun is dead, why not spare the uncle?" Disappointment washed over me as I replied, "But our child." He hesitated, explaining, "Truth be told, I have no affection for Aunt Chun. However, her brother saved my life on the battlefield, and I owe their family a debt. Just this once, as a final favor." "Very well, I shall heed your wishes." "It matters not. His corpse is already cold." His expression brightened as he leaned in to kiss my forehead before witnesses. I glanced at Aunt Yun, who surprisingly did not appear angry. She exchanged a meaningful look with me before entering the estate. That evening, the fabled Master Fong Yuan arrived, with Xia Yizhang relaying that I should join them in the main hall to host him. Upon my arrival, the three were laughing joyfully, as if they were family. I greeted Master Fong Yuan with a slight bow and a sincere smile. "I was worried I wouldn't find you, yet here you are," he remarked. Xia Yizhang, having fought on the battlefield since childhood, could not fathom my sister's unique constitution. My blood possesses detoxifying properties, undoubtedly what that monk had implied. To my shock, upon seeing me, his countenance morphed with fear. "Who is this girl?" Xia Yizhang, bewildered, responded, "This is my new wife, the second daughter of the minister." "May I ask if there's a problem, Master?" Master Fong Yuan regarded me thoughtfully for a long moment before asserting no. "This person is not a daughter of the minister's household, and she carries a heavy malice. She is not virtuous and should be eliminated promptly." "You vile monk. Your judgment is astute." As he spoke, he brandished his sword, thrusting it toward me. The glimmering blade shone like a silver dragon, poised to strike. Xia Yizhang made no move to intervene, leaving me no choice but to dodge swiftly. As if to validate his words, Master Feng Yuan's aura of menace intensified. his swordplay growing increasingly rapid, encircling me in a relentless assault. I evaded deftly, testing his martial prowess. After several exchanges, I discerned that his techniques were merely superficial flourishes, daring to provoke me, a fool's errand. Seizing the moment, I lunged and delivered a fierce kick to his side, sending him sprawling to the ground. With a deft maneuver, I launched my dagger, striking true to his heart. Master Feng Yuan's eyes widened in shock as he collapsed backward. Upon witnessing this scene, Aunt Yun became flustered, tugging at Xie Yizhang's sleeve. "General, you must save Master Feng Yuan. He is the only one capable of concocting the antidote." Xie Yizhang, with a grim expression, replied to Aunt Yun, "Quickly summon a doctor." I exchanged glances with him, and a palpable aura of murderous intent enveloped us. After a moment, Aunt Yun and the others retreated to a side hall. He struck first, his movements swift as lightning, and his attacks fierce. The weapon, a mere inch longer, proved to be my undoing. I soon found myself at a disadvantage, and as he showed no mercy, the silver sword pierced my left shoulder, blood gushing forth. Anger surged within me. That Western medicine had sapped half of his strength, yet I still could not prevail. How utterly useless I am. No wonder my sister dared not reveal the truth to me. Thankfully, I had a contingency plan. He withdrew his sword, pressing its tip against my neck, his gaze icy as he demanded, "Who are you?" I forced a smile, feigning sorrow. "Are you going to kill me, brother son?" I observed his expression stiffen, the sword slipping from his grasp as he took a step back, his voice hoarse with disbelief. "Who are you?" With tears brimming in my eyes, I smiled at him. "Brother Sun, do you not recognize me? Outside the Chongqing Pavilion in Shilin, did you not promise to come for me? What a liar!" Before he could respond, I spat out a mouthful of blood and pretended to faint. I felt Xie Yizhang lift me, his hands trembling uncontrollably, breaths heavy and erratic. Though he moved swiftly, his steps remained steady, and it was only when my body met the softness of the bedding that I felt a sense of relief. Before long, the outside was filled with the sound of hurried footsteps and commotion. "General, Master Feng Yuan is in critical condition. How could you send the doctor away?" "Step aside." The general insisted on saving her, even if it meant stepping over my body. My hand. The door creaked open, and Xie Yizhang's anxious voice called, "Hurry, save her." Finally, someone began to bandage my wounds. Moments later, I heard Xie Yizhang urgently inquiring, "What is happening? Why is she not awake yet?" "There's no need for concern, General. The wound is not deep and poses no significant threat. The lady merely lost too much blood and is utterly exhausted, hence she has fallen asleep. I shall fetch a few prescriptions to replenish her blood. A period of rest will suffice." His voice had calmed considerably. "Very well, go ahead. No need to attend to that matter." At last, I could rest peacefully. Since that day, I had grown taciturn, unwilling to speak no matter how Xie Yizhang pressed me. I moved into Xie Yizhang's quarters, receiving a steady stream of nourishing tonics daily, which he personally fed to me. This reminded me of that day when I visited the general's residence to see my sister. It was the same kind of nourishment. Thus I spoke up, "Brother Sun, will you teach me martial arts?" He slightly furrowed his brow, momentarily taken aback, then gazed at me with tender affection. "Ruer, you are still unwell. Let us focus on your recovery, shall we?" I let out a cold laugh. "Who is Ruer? How many women does Brother Sun have? Have you uttered those words to them all?" "Brother Sun is mistaken. It has been too long since we last met, and I have forgotten your name." I forced a pained smile. "Do you suspect I am not Qingyu?" Hearing this, he was momentarily taken aback, shame washing over him. I cast my gaze aside and continued, "I am not a daughter of the Xiong family. My sister said she found me. I was covered in wounds, lying by the roadside, my face burned, and calling out for Brother Sun. Upon waking, I remembered nothing. My sister said I had seemingly escaped from a brothel, as I bore a unique poison from there, one without an antidote." Hearing the word brothel, he visibly faltered, gripping his palm tightly, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. "Then how is the poison cured?" "The poison cannot be resolved, for the one who concocted it never prepared an antidote. Once administered, the victim is forever ensnared, destined to serve their master for a lifetime. You may have heard, when the Chancellor achieved great merit, the late emperor granted him the antidote to all poisons. The chancellor's daughter, frail since childhood, had been foretold by a sage that she would not live beyond her coming-of-age ceremony. The chancellor, loving his daughter, administered the antidote, granting her a body impervious to all toxins. However, the antidote is exceedingly potent, necessitating 7 doses, once a year. When my sister encountered me, I was gravely poisoned. Thus she bestowed upon me the remaining 4 doses, allowing me to cure the poison. Hence, despite breaking the curse of not reaching maturity, she remains frail and weak. Afterward, I frequently dreamt of a man outside the Chongting Pavilion in Shilin, whom I called Brother Sun. He told me to wait, assuring me he would return for me. Yet I could never discern his face until after my sister's death, when I finally recognized him in a dream. It was you. I recalled fragments of my past, joyfully anticipating marrying you, only to find you already bound to another. Upon hearing this, he embraced me tightly, his voice frantic as he protested. No, no. My heart belongs solely to you. If you do not trust Chinga, she can craft you a paper butterfly from our childhood. She would never deceive you. No need. I believe. I trust Chinga. I wept, struggling to breathe, while he gently patted my back in an attempt to soothe me. I whispered into his ear, Brother Sun, how did my sister truly die? His hand froze midair, his body stiffening, motionless. Chinga, do not ask. Will not inquiring allow me to forgive you? My illness soon abated, and Xia Yizhang accompanied me daily in the courtyard to practice swordplay. I trained diligently, never once complaining of fatigue. I deeply regretted those wasted years. Had I not squandered that time, I surely could have protected my sister, unlike now, when I felt utterly powerless and incapable of seeking revenge. Until that day, when exhaustion overcame me, Xia Yizhang could no longer contain himself, saying, Qing'er, you are already quite formidable. Why must you torment yourself so? I replied, I am too weak. That is why Brother Sun could easily wound me. I am anxious. Perhaps one day, Brother Sun will grow weary of me or be incited by another woman. And without hesitation, he would slay me. Upon hearing this, his expression turned pained, and after a lengthy silence, he finally said, I will protect you well from now on. A slap must be followed by a candy. I embraced him, softly declaring, Brother Sun, I too wish to protect you. You have been to battle and surely have many enemies. If someone seeks revenge, I must be able to defend you. He gazed at me, his eyes awash with deep, unshakable emotions. Very well, tomorrow we shall continue training. Qing'er will surely surpass me. How easily he was deceived. He no longer visited Aunt Yun, who came to him many times, only to be turned away, confined to the courtyard. Until that day, when her maid arrived with grave news, she had succumbed to her poison. Indeed, the time has come for her to face it. Xia Yizhang looked at me, troubled, unsure whether to save her or not. As a man of deep feelings, he had spent many years with Aunt Yun and could not easily let go. I smiled at him and decisively drew my own blood across my arm. His eyes widened in surprise. No, it's fine. How can the one Brother Sun cares for not be saved? I caught the blood in a teacup as it trickled down. That's enough. This is sufficient. The bright crimson blood had barely reached the midpoint of the cup when Xia Yizhang intervened. Brother Sun does not hold her in deep regard, does he? I taunted. Xia Yizhang's gaze darkened as he slowly recounted their story, and I listened intently. He and Qing'er had been childhood friends, but amidst turmoil, her family was exiled from the capital. He vowed to find her, yet was taken into the army by his father. After his father's death in battle, Xia Yizhang became a general, returning to the capital, frantically searching for her father, who was condemned to death. He could not save Qing'er's father, only to learn she had been sent to a brothel for over a year. In that year, she was sold multiple times, and Qing'er vanished without a trace. Thus, he visited countless brothels, finally encountering Aunt Yun in one. She remembered nothing yet bore a striking resemblance to Qing'er. Consequently, Xia Yizhang was convinced she was Qing'er. However, due to her beauty and to prevent her from being redeemed, the madam had administered a forgetfulness poison, ensuring she could never escape the brothel. Unable to redeem her, he fled with her and later fortuitously met Master Fong Yuan, seeking a remedy for her affliction. Even though the remedy was a glimmer of hope, The ingredients required to concoct it were exceedingly rare. In their desperate bid to preserve her life, they turned their attention toward the esteemed daughter of the governor's house. Aunt Yun had already succumbed to the poison, necessitating a continuous intake of blood for 7 days. Each day, I awaited the moment she endured the most excruciating pain before delivering the blood, providing her with the blood of fowl. She believed each time that she was on the brink of detoxification, convinced that if she could survive the 7 days, she would be freed from the poison's grasp. On the final day, I personally presented the medicine to her, dismissing all servants and leaving only Chuyue to guard the courtyard. Aunt Yun was already in the throes of the poison, writhing in agony on the ground as I gazed down at her from above. "Madam, please save me," she implored. I smiled as I extended the bowl of medicine, and she crawled toward me like a famished hound spotting food. I withdrew the bowl, asserting, "I intended to save you. But why did you not spare my sister when you had the chance?" "I was wrong, truly wrong, madam. But it was Chun Aunt who harmed your sister, not me."
"Not me,"
she cried in desperation. "Oh, what if I choose not to believe you?" I replied. "No, truly. Ing Chun knows everything. She left you a letter." I caressed her face gently. "Yet, you have killed Ing Chun, have you not? It seems you no longer wish to take the medicine." After a prolonged moment, she writhed in pain on the ground, attempting to seize the medicine from my grasp. With a swift kick, I sent her sprawling and slashed her arm with a short blade. She let out a silent scream, weakly confessing the truth. "I will tell you. Your sister was pregnant with a servant's child, too frail to abort, and could no longer provide blood. Thus, the general and I sought Master Fang Yuan, only to return to find that Chun Aunt had caused your sister to be violated. Then, she hesitated, and I drew another cut.
"Ah."
I relished her expression of torment as she recoiled, wishing to distance herself from me. Noticing a change in my demeanor, she clutched her bleeding hand and continued. Then she tried to take her own life, but the general intervened, for Master Fang Yuan said that if I exchanged blood with her, I would never need the antidote again. I offered the medicine to her, and she eagerly drank it. Later, in her near-death state, we performed the blood exchange, only to discover she was not pregnant. Yet, she bled excessively and could not be saved. She cast a glance at me, then suddenly halted, frantically racing toward the exit. I paused momentarily, my gaze hardening as I pulled her back, and the pain surged anew. Leaning closer, I mused, "It seems I was mistaken. This is the blood of that raccoon you raised." Somehow, she found the strength to scream, "General, General, save me." I ignored her cries and began to methodically cut her, my mind flooded with images of my sister lying in her coffin as I replicated each of those wounds with precision. Xia Yizhong burst through the door, his expression one of shock at the scene before him.
"King Air, you..."
Aunt Yun's pale face lit up with a flicker of hope. "General, save me." I regarded him expressionlessly. "Sun Gij," she revealed to me how my sister met her demise. "She assumed my identity, and you rescued her from the brothel, only for her to betray my savior. Tell me, does she not deserve to die?" Hearing my words, Aunt Yun seemed to lose all strength, her face turning ashen. Xia Yizhong appeared momentarily dazed, pressing his lips tightly together, his gaze falling as he retreated. I smiled in satisfaction and continued deepening her wounds, the bright crimson blood flowing from them, igniting the air with pain and sorrow. Time slipped away, and as Aunt Yun neared death, I leaned close to her ear and whispered a few words. Her face was a mask of anger and resentment as I tossed the short blade to her. With all her might, she attempted to grasp it, but she was utterly powerless. After Aunt Yun's demise, Xia Yizhong was haunted by nightmares night after night. One fateful evening, he awoke in terror, and I soothed him. "Qinger, will you kill me?" he asked, bewildered. "How could I? Have you forgotten? We are husband and wife, and as one. If I were to kill you, how would I survive?" He finally found solace in sleep. Citing the need for tranquility, I had all guards withdrawn from the courtyard. Day after day, I practiced my skills, never daring to let my guard down, yet Xia Yizhong fell ill. At last, one day, I ceased my training, prompting his confused inquiry. "I have good news," I told him. His joy was palpable, even as he failed to recall the long absence of intimacy between us. Seeing him lost in the delight of impending fatherhood, I drew my sword and lunged towards him, but he adeptly evaded my strike.
Indeed.
No surprise for one who has seen battle. But I am no longer the person I once was. Before he could catch his breath, I pressed forward relentlessly. Xie Yizhang.
Bewildert, stammeret, Kinger, weshalb Silon.
I offered no reply. The air crackled with the scent of death, each strike intended to kill, leaving him no room to spare an ounce of focus. Soon, he found himself at a disadvantage. My sword pierced his left arm deeply, and I had no hesitation, twisting my wrist to drive the short blade into his abdomen. As I withdrew the sword, he staggered backward, murmuring, "I haven't even had a chance to meet our child." I burst into laughter, as if I had heard the most absurd of jokes. Meeting his bewildered gaze, I explained, "The joy I speak of is not that of impending motherhood, but the joy of vengeance." He struggled to resist, but I severed his Achilles tendon with a swift motion. "Sister, I have finally avenged you." Another cascade of crimson blood. How beautiful it was. He labored to utter a few words. "Qing'er, have you truly forgotten us?" I cast him a scornful glance. "What Qing'er? I am Lu Ruyu. Where might I find Qing'er for you? Perhaps Aunt Yun truly was your Qing'er, and soon you shall reunite with her in the underworld." "Ah, but your Qing'er could have been saved while I methodically drew her blood, yet you did nothing." Observing the despair etched upon his face, I continued, "You must be wondering how I know about Sun Gij. Surely you told no one. But do you remember the servant who perished in the flames on the day of our wedding? He was with you for many years, and he even overheard your dreams." His gaze turned distant, a wretched smile twisting his lips. "You vile woman. Ha 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 vile. You who for your beloved ensnared my sister and used her as a mere tool to fulfill your marital ambitions. Your Qing'er could have lived peacefully in the brothel, receiving the antidote monthly from the matron. It was you, driven by selfish desire, who took her away. And Chun Aunt, Fang Yuan, each of you with your nefarious schemes. Did you ever consider the consequences of your actions when you condemned my sister?" With that, I lunged at him once more, laughing maniacally. "You used my sister's blood as an antidote, then your blood shall serve as my remedy." On that fateful day, flames engulfed the general's residence, the master of the house vanishing without a trace, while the compassionate lady of the governor's house took in all the servants. Years later, I visited my sister's grave. Now relocated from the outskirts of the capital to Luocheng, the place she once declared to be her favorite, where we had first met. I found myself speaking to her once more. "Do you recall that lantern festival when I accompanied you? How wonderful it would have been. I would have protected you from those loathsome men just as I did before. Sister, do you blame me?" Mother, knowing my quest for vengeance, sent her most skilled maid to aid me. With the debt of vengeance settled, Mother was elated, her anger toward Father's inaction prompting her to seek a divorce. Soon, she would relocate to Luocheng to remain by your side. By the way, sister, I must take my leave again. I promise to return next year. I shall travel to the western frontier to learn the art of detoxification. Should I be fortunate enough to master it, I will endeavor to create an antidote for all women imprisoned by poison. In this way, I may perform a good deed. For if I remain as wicked as I am now, how could I ever deserve to be your sister in the next life?"
The end.
Thank you for listening. Until our next story, goodbye.